The smell hit me first. Acrylic and oil paint don't burn like normal fire. They create toxic smoke that clings to everything, seeping into walls and memory alike. I stood in the doorway of my studio apartment, watching 10 years of my life curl into ash while my sister Lauren filmed it on her phone. Real artists don't come from our family, she laughed, tossing another canvas onto the makeshift bonfire she'd built in my metal trash bin. Did you really think the Whitmore Museum wanted your amateur hour paintings? I couldn't speak, couldn't move, could only watch as metamorphosis in blue, the piece that had taken 6 months to complete, bubbled and blackened. Behind it, I could see the corner of Grief Study Number 4, the painting I created after Dad died, melting into nothing. My phone buzzed. Elena Castillo, Director of Contemporary Art at the Whitmore. Looking forward to seeing your portfolio tomorrow. The committee is especially excited about the pieces you described. Tomorrow, my interview was tomorrow. The interview I'd waited 3 years for, the one that could launch my career, the one my sister had just made impossible. Why? I finally managed to whisper. Lauren shrugged, still recording. Mom told everyone at church that her daughter was having a show at the Whitmore. Do you know how embarrassing it was when Mrs. Patterson Googled it and found nothing? You've been lying to everyone. I said I had an interview for a potential exhibition. Same thing, and we both know they'll laugh you out of the building. I'm doing you a favor, Luna, saving you the humiliation. She kicked the bin, sending sparks and fragments of canvas across my hardwood floor. A decade of technique development, of emotional processing, of sleepless nights and breakthrough moments reduced to toxic smoke in her social media content. Besides, she added, pocketing her phone, I needed the attention off me for once. Kevin and I are getting divorced, and I don't need mom fawning over her artist daughter when I'm going through real problems. Real problems. As if watching your life's work burn wasn't real. She left me there with the ashes, the smoke detector shrieking, my neighbors starting to complain. I opened every window, turned on every fan, and sat on my floor until 3 a.m. cataloging the damage. 93 paintings. Gone. 47 sketches. Ash. 5 sculptures. Melted beyond recognition. 1 sister. Dead to me. But she'd made one crucial mistake. In her performative destruction, she'd forgotten about the storage unit across town where I kept my overflow work. 23 paintings remained. Not my best, not the ones the committee specifically wanted to see, but something. More importantly, she created evidence. That video she took, probably already posted to her Instagram story with some sanctimonious caption about protecting family from embarrassment. That was proof of destruction of property. Arson, technically, even if small scale. I didn't sleep. Instead, I did triage. I photographed every ash pile, every melted frame, every paint-stained corner of my apartment. I screenshotted her social media before she could delete it. I compiled a folder of the destroyed works. Thank God I documented everything for my website, with their creation dates, materials, dimensions, and the exhibitions where they'd shown. Then I called Elena Castillo. Luna, it's very early. There's been an incident, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. My portfolio was destroyed last night, but I'd like to keep our appointment if you're willing. Silence. Then, destroyed. My sister burned it. All of it. Well, most of it. I see. Do you have documentation? Yes, and police reports will be filed today. Come anyway, she said after a pause. Bring what you have. I arrived at the Whitmore Museum carrying a portfolio that smelled like smoke and dreams deferred. 23 paintings that represented maybe a quarter of my ability, and a laptop full of what used to exist. The security guard wrinkled his nose at the acrid smell clinging to my clothes. Elena Castillo was not what I'd expected. 60-something with silver hair in a severe bun, wearing architectural jewelry that could have been in the museum's collection. She took in my red eyes, my smoke-damaged portfolio case, the way my hands shook slightly. Show me, she said simply. I unpacked the survivors, mostly experimental pieces, the ones I deemed not good enough for prime display space. A series on urban decay that felt too obvious, some figure studies that weren't quite resolved. Competent work, but not the showstoppers she'd been promised. This is what remains, I said. But I brought documentation of what was lost. I opened my laptop, pulled up the folder, image after image of destroyed work, each one time-stamped, professionally photographed. Then the video, Lauren's video, downloaded before she could think to delete it. Alina watched in silence as my sister narrated her destruction, as canvases I'd bled for became fuel for her narcissism. When Lauren's voice rang out, "Real artists don't come from our family," Alina's expression shifted. "That's your sister." "Yes. And she destroyed your work because I had an opportunity she didn't." The truth distilled to its ugliest essence. Alina closed the laptop. "Tell me about Metamorphosis in Blue. I can see its destruction at the 047 mark of that video." So I told her how I'd layered 23 different shades of blue to capture the feeling of drowning in grief and surfacing into hope. How I'd scrapped it 4 times before finding the right texture. How it was about Dad's death, but also about everything that dies and gets reborn different. And grief study number 4. I talked for an hour, describing paintings that no longer existed, techniques I'd developed through failure and persistence, the way art had been my language when words failed. Alina asked about specific pieces she glimpsed in the destruction. She paused the video multiple times. I realized, studying what was being burned. "I've been in this business 40 years, she finally said. "I've seen family support artists and destroy them. I've never seen it quite this literally." She stood, walked to the window overlooking the sculpture garden. "We have a problem, Luna. I brought you in for our emerging artist showcase. The committee approved you based on a portfolio you submitted online. That work no longer exists." My heart sank. "However," she continued, "art isn't just about the final product. It's about resilience, vision, the ability to create in the face of destruction." She turned back to me. "What would you do if I gave you 6 weeks and full access to our artist residency studio?" "I'd recreate everything," I said immediately. "Not copies, evolutions. What those pieces would have become if they'd lived." "And your sister?" "Will face legal consequences for destruction of property valued at over $200,000. Alina's eyebrows rose. "You've had them appraised." 3 pieces were sold to collectors last year. 5 were under consideration by galleries. The rest were professionally documented. Art has value, even if my family doesn't see it. 6 weeks, Alana said. "You'll have studio space, materials budget, and a mentor. If you can produce a cohesive body of work that speaks to both loss and creation, we'll move forward with the exhibition. And if I can't?" Then your sister was right. The challenge in her voice ignited something in me. She wasn't right. "Prove it." I left the museum with a key card, a contract, and a fury that felt like fuel. Lauren had thought she was ending my career. Instead, she'd given me the one thing I'd never had: urgency. I filed the police report that afternoon. Destruction of property, criminal mischief, and because she'd posted the video online, possible harassment. The detective who took my statement was skeptical until I showed him the appraisals, the gallery correspondence, the documentation proving this wasn't just family drama but felony-level property damage. Lauren was served papers 2 days later. She called me screaming about betrayal, about family loyalty, about how I was ruining her life over some paintings. "You ruined them first," I said and hung up. The family explosion was predictable. Mom called, begging me to drop the charges. She's going through a divorce. She wasn't thinking clearly. She thought clearly enough to break into my apartment and commit arson. It wasn't arson. It was just a mistake. "Have you seen the video, Mom? The one where she laughs while destroying a decade of my work?" Silence. "Then, you've always been jealous of Lauren. This is just revenge." I laughed, actually laughed. Jealous of what? Her failed marriage? Her inability to let anyone else succeed? Or her criminal record, which she's about to have? The studio space at the Whitmore was everything I dreamed of. North-facing windows, professional ventilation, more square footage than I'd ever had. I moved in like a woman possessed, working 18-hour days. But something strange happened. The paintings that emerged weren't recreations. They were autopsies. Each new piece dissected the loss of its predecessor, examining what it meant to create from ashes. I painted the smoke patterns on my walls. I painted Lauren's face reflected in burning canvas. I painted my own hands, helpless and heat-warped. The work was raw, angry, immediate in a way my previous paintings had never been. Where I'd once painted grief as blue waves, I now painted it as smoke inhalation. Where I'd once captured metamorphosis in abstract swirls, I now showed it as literal resurrection from ash. This is extraordinary, my mentor James said during week 3. Painful to look at, but extraordinary. It feels like I'm giving her credit, I admitted. Like she's part of my artistic narrative now. She is, James said simply. The question is whether you're the hero or victim of that narrative. Hero, victim. I've been both, but the paintings demanded I choose. So I chose hero, not the kind that forgives and forgets, but the kind that transforms trauma into truth. I painted my sister as Nero, fiddling while Rome burned. I painted myself as a phoenix, but one still partially ash, still partially flame, caught in an agony of becoming. The centerpiece was a diptych, before/after. On the left, a meticulous recreation of metamorphosis in blue from memory. On the right, the same composition but fractured, smoke damage, with new growth pushing through the cracks. It took 2 weeks alone, working from muscle memory and grief. While I painted, the legal process ground forward. Lauren hired a lawyer who tried to argue the destroyed work had no value, that I was exaggerating my losses. I countered with sales records, gallery contracts, and professional appraisals. Her own video became prosecution evidence, her narration proving intent. She tried bargaining, offered to pay for some canvases if I dropped the charges. When that failed, she played victim on social media, posting about how her mentally unstable sister was persecuting her during her divorce. I posted nothing, just painted. Week 5. Elena visited the studio. She walked through my new body of work in silence, spending long minutes with each piece. When she reached the diptych, she stood so still I thought she'd stop breathing. The committee needs to see this immediately, she said. The exhibition opened 6 weeks to the day after the burning. Phoenix work, Creation After Destruction, ran for 3 months at the Whitmore, featuring 35 new pieces created during the residency. The promotional materials included a single line about the circumstances of their creation, but the work spoke for itself. Opening night, the gallery was packed. Collectors, critics, other artists, but also my family. Mom came, dragging Dad, both looking uncomfortable among the wine and artistic discussion. Lauren wasn't there, of course. She was busy with court-ordered community service and restitution payments that would take her years to complete. I don't understand it, Mom said, standing before the Nero painting. Why would you paint your sister like this? Because this is what she did, I said. This is what it looked like from my perspective. But she's not evil. She just made a mistake. I guided her to the video installation in the corner, where Lauren's destruction played on loop, her voice echoing. Real artists don't come from our family. Does that look like a mistake to you? Mom left without saying goodbye, but not before I saw her studying the price list. The Nero painting was marked at $15,000, more than I'd ever charged before. It sold that night. The review in Art Forum was brutal and beautiful. Luna Weaver's Phoenix work transforms personal destruction into universal truth. These paintings don't just document loss. They interrogate it, dissect it, and ultimately transcend it. The artist's sister may have been right that real artists don't come from our family, but she failed to realize she was speaking to one. By the end of the run, every piece had sold. The diptych went to a major collector for $50,000. Combined with the insurance payout for the destroyed work and the court-ordered restitution, I had enough to quit my day job and paint full-time. But the real vindication came later. Lauren, forced to pay me $300 monthly for the next 10 years, started her own blog about overcoming adversity. In her telling, she was the victim of a vindictive sister who'd criminalized a moment of emotional distress. The comment section told a different story. Someone had found her original video, the one she thought she'd deleted. It spread through art Twitter like wildfire. #RealArtists became a rallying cry for artists facing family opposition. Lauren's blog became a monument to her own crime, preserved forever in internet amber. She texted me last week. I hope you're happy. You've ruined my life over some stupid paintings. I didn't respond. I was too busy preparing for my solo show at the Modern, the one Atlanta had arranged after the Whitmore's success. The theme, transformation through destruction. The marketing materials featured a single image, ashes in the shape of a phoenix. Real artists don't come from our family? Maybe not. But they do rise from the ashes of families who tried to burn them down. And sometimes, Those ashes make the best paint. The opening is next month. I'm considering sending Lauren an invitation with a note. Thank you for the materials. After all, she taught me that sometimes the best art comes from the worst intentions. That destruction can be creation waiting to happen. That real artists don't come from families, they survive them. And I am nothing if not a survivor, painting my way through the smoke.